SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
And good Saturday morning to everyone. Welcome to another episode of Biz Talk with SCORE here on WHBY. My name is Mary Rhode, and joining me today as my co-host is Terry Pinch. Terry, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mary. Hope you've had a great, wonderful weather week so far.
Yes, these 80s. I will take them all day, every day. They help my garden as well. So happy to have a good start to the growing season here. Joining us this morning for another episode of Biz Talk here, we are thrilled to have back as a guest. We like to circulate our guests every couple years and check in with them and find out what they're up to. So this morning we are joined by Jen Fietz, owner and CEO of Stoke RGA, located in downtown Green Bay. Jen, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome back to Biz Talk. You were on just few years ago, and I think listeners will be excited to hear some of the changes and new happenings in your world. But for those who may not know you, let's start with a little bit of an introduction. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners, maybe share a little bit about your professional background and a little bit of your career journey.
Absolutely. So my name's Jen Fietz. I'm the owner and CEO of Stoke RGA. I have a unique passage to owning a business. Boy, I never thought it would ever happen. It wasn't even on my radar. I spent 20 years in the financial services industry, supporting marketing and sales efforts, auto and home insurance, 401k services, and found myself at a job loss and a downsize, and ended up moving into the marketing agency services world. And that transition really showed me I was able to, learn. I mean, it was like going back to college. I thought I was going to be a simple transition for me. And honestly, it was the toughest thing I've ever done, because doing marketing and sales for multiple companies versus living in one linear world inside a corporate environment is just a big transition. It's the best thing I ever did. I understood, though, in that move that there was an opportunity for us to offer services just a little differently. We were allowing companies to come and ask us for transactional things like websites and brochures and SEO and Google ads, and really never understanding kind of how that plugged into a larger plan. So when I got the opportunity to move on to Imaginasium, formerly owned by Dennis Kraft, downtown Green Bay, I asked him if we could make some adjustments to how we offered services. And I'm grateful, so grateful today to tell you that he said yes. And before I knew it, I was buying his business and of course, switching the name from Imaginasium to Stoke RGA.
So looking back just at your professional journey, you alluded to kind of that pivotal point in your career where you took the leap. And you kind of mentioned it was the best decision you ever made. Thinking back to yourself in that moment in time and knowing there's potentially others out there that maybe they're working a 9-to-5, but they have this side gig that, gosh, they want to make it go and they want to jump into that entrepreneurial world. What was the push? What was your push in that moment?
I think once you discover that you're extremely passionate about things, you realize that you're much more likely to take risks. And I got a taste of being able to kind of adjust how we were servicing our clients, and it was working. And we were seeing some amazing results in our manufacturing environments. And once you just get a tiny bit of taste for success, you start to realize that what you're trying to do is working. And that's when you get to start trusting your gut a little more and you get more confident in taking those leaps. Obviously, a lot of my success is surrounding myself with the right people and knowing when to go with your gut and when to, pull the audience. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunity that kind of presented itself to me.
So let's introduce Stoke RGA, maybe to those who haven't heard of it before, and kind of explain why you're really not just another consultant or another agency here in the Northeast Wisconsin and beyond market.
Yeah. So Stoke RGA stands for Revenue Growth Accelerator. One of the great things that Dennis, my former business partner, allowed me to do was to solely focus in one sector. You have to build your expertise and you can't be everything to everyone. As much as I would love to work with a variety of industries, I feel it's important that you really stay focused for a service industry like ours. So when we chose to focus in manufacturing back then when I moved to working with him, and ever since I realized, one, manufacturing has a very soft place in my heart. My parents are both blue collar workers. They worked at Fort Howard Paper Company for many, many years, and retired there. I feel that most manufacturers are built off of growth, some growth plan. They're trying to achieve something large, and us working in our service industries, trying to plug independent things into what that master goal might be is unlikely to be successful. So I work directly with usually an owner, a CEO, chief of operations, chief growth officer in designing with my team an annual plan, a multi-year plan, really. And that plan is focused first on growth. Like, what are you trying to achieve? What revenue goals do you have for the year? I make jokes all the time that the love language of the C-suite is revenue, and it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. We're all trying to run our companies and we're trying to grow. There's a lot of other great things that happen alongside of that, but in order to stay in business, you have to be generating some growth. When you start generating growth, you start impacting the organization in a multitude of ways. You're hitting, obviously, you're aligning your marketing and sales teams, but you're impacting operations. Operations needs to understand that we're ready to grow this business. And in many cases, we've been able to drive double-digit revenue growth for our clients. And so being able to prepare the plant floor, the office staff, that this is what growth looks like, and for them to be able to weigh back to us, okay, wait, what about this? What about that? So we're working on a much larger playing field inside the organizations that we're working with, aside just from marketing. Obviously, marketing is a big part of what we do, but we work across the organization to really help that C-suite drive their growth plan.
So you touched on, the synergy that you help create for your clients within their own organizations, cross-departmental synergy, right? To get everybody working together. You certainly are not alone in what you do either. So what does the team at Stoke look like?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So it's hard for me to not even include myself in the growth strategy part of this, but we have a team of really amazing growth strategists, and they lead. I serve as a consultant to them when they get stuck, but really they are building and leading these growth strategies for our manufacturing teams. We have a team of account managers that actually once the plan is approved and the revenue engine is in the process of getting built and executed, our account management team manages the resources that help implement that plan. I think a unique part about our company is during the pandemic, a lot of the greatest workers who have individual skills, copywriting, programming, designing, Obviously, there's all these new skills coming out with AI. They all went to the gig economy and worked for themselves. And so there was a good opportunity for us to actually build up our resource pool. So we operate a lot like a construction company who has contractors that do different things. It allows us to run our company in a lean way, but also deliver the services that are needed in that given moment in time. It also allows us to pivot plans when things aren't producing the growth we're expecting to see. We can make adjustments and changes quickly without that staff being attached to our business. And so it's been we have a team of, roughly 8 or 9 people that are on staff at Stoke RGA, but I tell people our team's like between 50 and 75 firms and individuals who are supporting the execution of the plans for our manufacturing clients.
That's fantastic. That's obviously a lot of moving parts and certainly helping support a lot of individuals in their own careers. So, with Stoke really focusing in on that niche of manufacturing, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you couldn't be located in any better part of the entire state. Northeast Wisconsin is so strong in manufacturing, and we have a lot of organizations that exist, New North, the New Manufacturing Alliance. What does it mean for a business like yours that focuses their day-to-day on growing that manufacturing sector? What does it mean to have such a strong manufacturing base here in Northeast Wisconsin?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. Because it allows us to give accolades to the group we have here. And I am finding that other states just aren't as lucky. We care deeply about the manufacturing sector. And so I feel as if I'm a part of something that's of the greater good for not just Northeast Wisconsin, but the upper Midwest. We have a lot of amazing manufacturers going through transformation right now. And I think it's going to take a lot more than just my firm to support that. There's transitions in digital technology. There's transitions in our baby boomers going, how do I sell my business? How do I transition to the next leadership team? There's all kinds of different things, and it takes a good networked, supported community to be able to lift those manufacturers up and help them move to where they want to go. So I'm grateful for the Alliance. I'm grateful for New North. I'm grateful for Wisconsin Manufacturing and Commerce. It's really focused in the manufacturing space. I hope I'm not forgetting. I feel like I'm forgetting about so many because there are really so many places that are so many companies, groups that are focused on supporting the manufacturing industry.
Well, and I think even too, just the breadth of types of manufacturers and the sizes of those businesses. I think people think of certainly the giants, right? You have Georgia Pacific and, Kimberly-Clark down in the valley. But there are so many just smaller, even, less than 50 employee manufacturing businesses that are out there doing great work every single day that people may not even think of. And sometimes I can assume for you and the business you're in, those are kind of the gems, right? Those are the ones that maybe have room for growth, but they haven't pictured themselves growing yet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Green Bay Innovation Group is another really great organization that focuses on the 5 P industries: printing, packaging, paper, pulp. There's a 5th one that I always forget, but they focus in those industries, and they highlight educational opportunities for us to go and visit organizations, tour. I've gone down in Milwaukee and visited companies I've never heard of. I can then drive over to De Pere and go to an event of theirs, and that's where I grew up. I grew up in De Pere to find a company that I never even knew existed. You are right. There are so many gems and so much opportunity to be able to support our manufacturing sector right here in Northeast Wisconsin.
So with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first break. You are listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we will be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to Biz Talk. Our guest this week is Jen Fietz from Stoke RGA, where she's the owner and CEO. Before I continue, I'd like to tell you about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. SCORE Northeast Wisconsin serves a 20-county area, primarily in Northeast Wisconsin. With over 30 members in the region and access to over 10,000 nationally, we offer entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. Areas of expertise include marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, retail, best practices, and many other specialties. In order to register for a no-cost and confidential mentoring session and learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, visit our website at score.org/WI/Northeast-Wisconsin. When visiting our website at score.org/WI/Northeast-Wisconsin, you can complete an online application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas your business may need assistance in. To get started, simply visit our website. Support small business people. SCORE is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. Go to our website at score.org/WI/Northeast-Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button and fill out the short application. We'll get back to explain more. In addition to our broadcast in WHBY, Biz Talk with SCORE is also available as a podcast. We bring you the same expert advice, impactful stories, and real-world insights from experienced entrepreneurs and business leaders as we do in the radio show. Listen and follow today. They're available wherever you can get your podcasts. So now back to Biz Talk and our guest, Jen Fietz. And Jen, I just want to build a little bit on the discussion at the end of the last segment. Looking around in this area, at the time you took over the business, you had so many owners, family businesses who were going through a transfer, getting to the point they wanted to get out of the business. At the same time, seeing all these technology impacts. How do you work through those environments where somebody has made all the decisions and done things in a certain way for so long, and you have to come in and help them change?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think I read a stat this week that says 11 to 12,000 baby boomers are leaving the workforce every day. That's a lot of people. If you just start doing the math in a month, the number of people that are exiting the workforce. And I think when that generation is owning a business, what we've done, what Stoke RGA has done is identify the right partners that can work with us, because we're typically obviously working with P&Ls and sales information. But if they want to exit their business, there's likely something that they want or need to get out of that business in order to retire on their terms and sell it on their terms. And so that becomes very much integrated with our growth plan. These owners, CEOs, shareholders, whoever is a part of the ownership of the business, it needs those two things to be working side by side with one another. So similarly, like we find the right partner that we can work with that can also help us support that business in creating a formalized exit strategy that aligns with our growth plan. On the technology side, I think there's some really, really great things that are happening right now as we see. I think a few years ago, there was this big fear, and it was accurate. You have this immense level of tribal knowledge inside the heads of our baby boomers and Gen X population. How do we get that to the millennial and to the Gen Z population? And so our manufacturers specifically have done a good job on process development and building those things up, but it just isn't gonna do exactly what the transfer of that knowledge should be from the person who's been standing at that machine or generating that product for 20 years. And so what's happening is we're getting the good knowledge transfer there, and then they're exiting the workforce, and that's creating space for our manufacturing environments to look at what does this now need to look like. With new digital technologies and AI, there's just going to be a transformation of what our spaces actually look like.
It's kind of an amazing thing to see where you have a societal transformation and manufacturing is fitting right in with that and transforming at the very same time.
I agree.
As you've worked with manufacturers in the area, are you seeing them get more confident about the transitions and learning more about things like artificial intelligence and hiring 20-year-olds versus the people they've had working with them for a while?
Yeah, I think there's two things that are happening. There's way more focus on business planning. So looking at the big picture, not just from a growth perspective, but what is our business strategy for the next 3, 5, 7 years? And that includes so many pillars of things to consider. Obviously, digital transformation is something that's going to be happening for a while, and it means so many things. It's not just something that is earmarked for the manufacturing floor. There's digital transformation happening in finance and all operational roles. It's happening across the organization. And so I think what they're doing a great job is figuring out how do we do this in a way that makes sense for our company. We don't have to be the first there. We don't have to be the fastest. Let's just make sure that we're moving at a pace that makes sense for us and that we're monitoring really what is working and what's not, and making those pivots. And speaking of pivots, we know that things change. We've never gone back to normal life after the pandemic. Everything kind of stayed at the speed that we created during that time. And you have to be able to make adjustments as macro and microeconomic things make change here. You got to have a plan to go, if this doesn't work, I'm moving here. If we see a down play here, this is my next play. And I feel like these new technologies are really going to help forecasting and scenario planning. And I just think our manufacturers are getting really good at that.
Okay, great. We're at the point we're going to take our second break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score and WHBY. I'll be right back after these messages.
You can start in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score here on WHBY, and we are speaking with Jen Fietz, CEO and owner of Stoke RGA, located in downtown Green Bay, but certainly servicing a much larger area. And as we talked about in an earlier segment, Northeast Wisconsin is such a beautifully rich area for manufacturing and manufacturers of all sizes. And I can only assume that was proven even more true at the recent Wisconsin Drives Manufacturing Summit that you were able to attend recently. So share a little bit about with our listeners about that particular summit, what brought it to be, what the summit itself was all about. And then I think additionally, it'd be great to hear from you what events like that, how they foster collaboration really across the manufacturing industry and kind of help address some of those challenges that exist.
Yes, I think that's great. It was a great event. The Wisconsin Drives Manufacturing Summit was actually put on by the university system in the state of Wisconsin. It brought together more than 700 people on Tuesday at Lambeau Field. And it was workforce leaders, executives, educators, people in research and technology, and of course, policymakers. And there was 2 goals, I think, of the session. The reason that it was born is Wisconsin fell to number 2 in manufacturing in the United States, second to Indiana. And as we all know, we're a competitive bunch. So we want to, obviously, the second goal then is to figure out as a sector, how are we getting back to number 1? And so there was a lot of great keynotes, great topics throughout the session, really talking through things that the group felt we needed to discuss in order to move Wisconsin back to that number 1 spot. There was a focus on, obviously, AI was a big topic. Digital twins is something that I had not even heard of, which is replicating process or environments and actually watching it work in real time so you can test adjustments to things, which was mind blowing. And then just a variety of emerging technologies and how other businesses and universities are focusing on a variety of different opportunities.
So Jen, from my experience in Score, I found people in retail are really good at networking and working together. Brewers, they get together everywhere and talk and have a few beers and sample and share things. Health and wellness, same sort of thing. But the one area where it was harder to get the people together and talk was in manufacturing, probably because it's an older industry. How do you find that you can start to get people together and talk more and network and share things so it's better for everybody?
I think that we've become better at that in the last few years. I agree with you. I think some of I think I agree. It's an older industry, but it's also an industry where the executive folks that are running those manufacturing facilities are almost always have their sleeves rolled up doing something inside the business. And so getting them to give a little time was just not even on their radar. I think that, like I said, over the course of the last few years, they've gotten really great at it. And it's really good for us to hear people's different groups, different perspectives. Like there was absolutely things that I heard on Tuesday that I did not agree with, but it was so good and felt so good to see that we had both sides of the aisle of people there. We had people from education and people from manufacturing. We had people from higher education, people from tech schools. It just felt so good. And I have reached out to that group that put it on and said, wonderful job, because it wasn't the university putting it together and just saying, this is what we think it is. No, they engaged all the right people, including those manufacturing leaders, to come and actually tell us what they needed, and specifically around workforce training and upskilling. And that is a huge demand right now, is to figure out how do we make sure that the way we're educating our students in these tech schools and universities, that we're giving them educations that are valuable. So when they come out, we've got places for them to be. So.
Well, what a wonderful inaugural event. Can only imagine next year's will be bigger and better than this year. But so great to get all of those right minds, as you said, really in the room, getting Wisconsin back into that #1 spot, hopefully here soon, as well as we definitely are a competitive bunch. And pivoting here a little bit to talk more about your client base. So as a company, every day, your team is in the trenches. You are meeting these manufacturers of all sizes and all types where they're at. And there could be a lot of different struggles that they're dealing with. Some you can help and maybe some that you can't, right? But the fact of the matter is your team is there and you're sitting them down and getting them to look inward. And I think sometimes, to your point of, the actual owners of the company being in there with their sleeves rolled up, doing the work, they maybe don't always see that great big picture. And so, Stoke has, kind of a 5-stage approach. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more, about what that means, and especially how your team, really customizes, those 5 stages to tackle whatever that client's need might be at that time.
Yeah, I'll jump into the stages in just a second, but I think it's important to know that sometimes we have companies coming to us saying, we want to be a $500 million company, which is like a 30%, 35% increase in 5 years. Like sometimes that's the goal. Sometimes the goal is we're losing market share in our pressure sensitive label industry, and we need you just to help us there. So I say that because a lot of the 5 stages is customized based on what we agree on is the thing we're going to tackle. And that as long as it's obviously we're able to build a growth plan around it, we're open to going in and testing and making sure we can make it happen. So our first stage is all about designing our research phase of figuring out who is the company, what does the industry look like, who are the competitors, and we do a good chunk of that ahead of getting any information from that manufacturer, because we don't want to be impeded by something because to your point, our job is to see the things they can't. We are all in the environment of we're too close to it to see what the opportunities are. I am as well. When I hire consultants, their job is to come in and show me the things I can't see. And of course, that's our job. We come in and show you the things you can't see. So without impeding what we can see first, before we hear what the client has to say, we spend some time just doing some base level research. And we're trying to uncover hidden gaps. We're trying to find disconnects. Then we go into interviewing And the most valuable part, if I'm being honest, all the quantitative stuff we can find, obviously everyone knows that we can find it pretty darn easy in using our AI tools and search engines to find the information we need to, and looking at their website. But really the value comes in spending the time on the qualitative data that comes from surveying the C-suite, looking at, and stakeholders, key stakeholders, people on the front lines, people in customer service and sales, really understanding how are they looking at where we're growing, what things are going well, what's not going well, what are the top 3 things, looking at all of that data. That's what we spend most of our time actually analyzing and finding the disconnects. And then we basically put together an assessment report. We go through it and say, hey, this is where we found the gaps between what the market says and what you told us. One more thing. We also look at financials, because obviously everything we do is driven by a quantitative goal. And so we are, clients will say we want to grow by 8% this year. We want to be the number 1 provider of this product in our space. Whatever that might be, we have to lay out what that looks like. So we want to see financials. We want to see margins and where profit exists, because sometimes our marketing and sales teams can drive towards the easy path, and that might be not where the company is most profitable. So really making sure that our plan is aligned with something that's going to actually hit the bottom line in a positive way. So once we get that report together and they agree, yes, that's great, then we go into stage 2, which is building out their growth blueprint and year 1 revenue engine launch. And so that is doing our actual strategic planning, our growth planning, and aligning what resources we'll need on the back end to support it. We come to the table again with the team on the client side, and we look and say, this is what your plan looks like. This is how we're going to get you to whatever that goal is that we agreed in stage 1. Stage 3 is then where our team gets started, assembling our teams, getting the marketing up and launched. I think our very unique value that we bring that's different from a lot of companies that would fall in that agency or consultancy realm is we meet with the sales folks way more than we meet with anyone else in the organization, because we start that marketing, and now if we can't get the sales team on board, we don't give them what they need, we don't actually review leads with them to find out what's a good lead, what's a bad lead, then all of it falls apart. And so we're bringing the marketing team along with that, and they're getting aligned with the sales teams. And it's really, it sounds so easy, but it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time in trust and communication and, some of those soft skill things that can be difficult to work through as organizations. We find one of our most favorite things to do is to get the sales person, guy or gal who's been working their butt off for years and years and years, to trust us that we're really here to make their job easier. So that's where we spend a lot of time in stage 3, getting everything up and launched. And then the plan is running. And so now we're going off of monthly and quarterly reviews, and we make pivots in order to align what we should see on a monthly basis to hit that annual goal. Stage 4 and stage 5 are less linear. Things fall into those. So stage 4 is looking at operations and what things need to be integrated. Do they have a CRM? Do they need a new customer service portal? Are we looking at new website work? Things that are more tool driven, I would say. And then stage 5 is, okay, we just killed it in that market. What market are you not thinking of? And I bring up some examples because most of the time you sit at a table with the C-suite and they're looking at you going, we know who all the big players are, or we know who the client, we know who everyone is in our space. And with all due respect, that's almost never true, because there's always markets, niche markets, areas of opportunity, areas of growth. When you look away from the big fish, there's a lot of other opportunity that usually is getting missed by especially companies in, that mid-sized arena. So we really want them to start thinking about things they haven't thought about before and where they could be, selling their products and services.
It might be safe to assume that you've come into client meetings where they have really laid out multiple goals, right? I think you alluded to it earlier that sometimes there's a 5-year plan, right? And that 5-year plan could consist of multiple things that they want to achieve. How do you, I guess, help them prioritize maybe what is either achievable first or perhaps even the most important first before they tackle those other things?
Yeah, a lot of our planning process is really laying out, who's the most profitable market right now. And we obviously are looking at what the company believes, but then also what is the market telling us? So, everything we do is pointed. So they might list a lot of things for us in stage 2 to say, I want to see all the things you just said. I want to make sure we get a new website. I want to implement a new innovation team. We lay that all on our framework planning document, and then we start prioritizing with them in that stage 2 plan. But the easiest question is, will this drive revenue in year 1? Because Stoke RGA does not succeed with a business owner who's investing money in growing. They need to see ROI quickly. And so we can usually very easily agree on what's now, what's next year, what's year 3. And we, of course, we move things around based, and if something comes up and like, nope, we thought it was year 3, we want it now, we obviously will do it. But it's really pointing everything at our focus is to drive some real growth this year, because we have to prove to you that we can do it, and you have to, that's how you're going to gain trust in us, and we can continue to expand the program that we're putting in place.
So as an organization, SCORE helps a lot of different industries and entrepreneurs in a lot of different paths, and different places on those paths. So you just walked our listeners through, the 5-stage approach that Stoke takes when meeting with manufacturing clients. Would you say that these 5 stages in some way, shape, or form are applicable to other industries and perhaps even a small business, retail business just starting up? How would you advise, I guess, someone to maybe dig in a little bit to some parts and pieces of your 5-stage approach to help them where they currently are at?
Yeah, I would say this. Yes, absolutely. I'm just going to simplify it for anybody that's not in the manufacturing space. So the first thing that every company comes in not fully clear on, that I've worked with even in my last job when I was actually working is who is your customer? Who are they? And I mean, take a picture of one of your customers and put it on your screen or on your whiteboard and say, okay, this is Mandy, and Mandy's our key point of contact. Let's talk about what Mandy is worth. You look at the things what does Mandy's life look like in their job? And so I think taking your greatest customers and kind of building out visually those profiles, it sounds silly, but it's super important so that you start to understand. And now you start putting things into market and you say, is Mandy going to respond to this? Is this something Mandy cares about? Because in stage 2, you're really designing what is going to create a trigger moment or an action from your audience. And so that's really looking at what are the challenges that they're facing. We all want to talk about how great our companies are. I mean, I look back at some of the things I've done in the past and I'm like, oh gosh, I totally fell into that bucket. We're great. Trust us. And it's really more about your messaging should be connecting right to the problem that your audience is experiencing, so they can go, oh my gosh, that's me. They're speaking to me. Yes, I want what you have to offer. So I think once you look at your audiences, the best thing you can identify is what are they struggling with? What are the problems? What are the things you offer that solve the problems that they have? And then when you get into actually facilitating the work you're going to do, it should drive all around what that is. Who's the audience I'm looking to hit, and what problems am I solving for them? Everything that you communicate and put in your outreach to try and gain new business should fall around that.
That is great advice. Phenomenal advice. We are ready here to take our very last break of this episode. You are listening to Biz Talk with SCORE on WHBY. Welcome back to Biz Talk with SCORE. And before we wrap up our conversation here this morning with Jen Fietz, CEO and owner of Stoke RGA. I'm going to take just a brief moment here to thank our sponsors. We'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsors for their generous support of Biz Talk. Haling and Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan for the future. Haling and Associates, personal connection, positive results. A thank you to Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works to match the banking and wealth services needed to help you complete your mission. Thank you to the Business News for promoting our program in the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin with the latest news and topics for the region. We are grateful for the support of Community First Credit Union. At its core, Community First Credit Union is a community of member owners where people work together to improve their financial well-being and help one another. Thank you to New North, the Regional Marketing and Economic Development Corporation that is an active supporter of SCORE. The New North facilitates economic growth and helps people in this region live their best lives. And lastly, thank you to Baird. Since 1919, Baird has guided families through investment, trust, estate, and tax planning advice. So no matter what the future brings, you can be confident you're ready because your family is Baird's focus. And Terry, I'll turn it back over to you to bring our episode to a close today.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And again, we're talking with Jen Fietz. And Jen, could you first let people know how they can get in touch with you and Stoke RGA?
Absolutely. You can find us online at stokerga.com, and I am also on LinkedIn at Jen Fietz. We also have a LinkedIn page for Stoke RGA as well. And if there's anything that I could do, I'd be happy to even just have phone calls with people because, as you can probably tell, I am eager to support the manufacturing industry in any way that I can.
Okay. And Jen, over the last few years, you've made an incredible number of changes at the business and really done a lot of things. But what's next for Stoke RGA?
Oh, what's next? Well, we're really working on building awareness for what manufacturers are up against because we're laying these growth plans down for our manufacturing clients, but there's lots of other challenges that they're facing. You know, we've got evolving PFAS regulations, so those are forever chemicals that are really creating some significant regulatory pressure across a variety of industries that might be using them. I had mentioned upskilling workforces to kind of keep pace with technology. I have concerns about the degrees that are available to our young people, and so I really want to help close the gap there to make sure that we have people coming out of school ready to join the workforce. I think it's looking at how do we leverage AI. It is scary as it can be. I think and again, at a paced way, but what does AI do for our manufacturing floors and back office and kind of making sure that we're ready for what the opportunity is. And the last is just making sure that there's a nice suite of diversification across our client base because we want them to be able to handle any market swings that are going to happen.
Okay. So when should a business reach out to you? What is the sign internally to them? They should say, you know what, I need to get Jen in and get some help.
I think it starts at the top. So when there is a group of leaders that is recognizing that they need some guidance and support to move the organization. Somebody said, I don't know how much longer I can try and turn, the massive ship, and that's how it feels. And so we have the unique ability to provide outside perspective. And so I think once the leadership says, yes, we're ready, and they've got a good, solid group of people helping to lead the charge, that's when they should call.
Okay. So first of all, Jen, thank you very much for being on the show again. We really appreciate it and really appreciate all the help you provide to manufacturers in this area.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. It was a pleasure.
Okay. And so for our listeners, we're on every week on WHBY, Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. but we also are on podcasts that comes out a few days after the show, and you can go and listen on any of your favorite podcatchers like iTunes, Amazon, YouTube, and others as well, and can find all sorts of stories like this one about businesses in the area, because the one thing I've learned doing this show is there's an incredible number of really unique and somewhat unexpected businesses in the area that you just don't know about until you start talking to them. So go out and look for those. You'll find our last 3 years of episodes are on both the podcatchers and also on our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. So go and take a look and listen, and you'll find a lot of good things there. Again, we'll be back next Saturday morning. We really appreciate you listening in, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. Take care.